Hello, back again. Hats of the 20th Century Museum, hats and more, and we're now going to try to begin what I have put aside as clothing of the 1910 decade, which I've taken off my little teeny rack and spread it out along here. And also, a couple of things in the catalogs first. And as I was flipping, trying to find the slips in my 1916-17 Bella Hess, I found an auto cap, which is probably why this, we'll pan up to it later, why that black hat keeps making me think it should be auto related. Here's another auto cap. So that's interesting. Plus, the way that they wore these oversized, what we might think of as a beret, is really a tam-o'-shanter. I don't know if it'll even say that right out, but tam-o'-shanter. So I thought, well, let's look at those two hats that were on top of these racks again. This is the tam-o'-shanter first, which we've pointed up to it. It's been on a styro head, but I've brought it down off the 1910 rack to show you the old lining. So it is probably, definitely, the 1910 period, and it's generous like they have in the catalog we just looked at, and would be worn on the side very smartly. Black seal, very soft. And then here's that auto hat again, which now we've got a little more proof from our 1916-17 catalog that goofy thing could have something to do with riding around in your automobile. Now, what I wanted to show you in these catalog pages, when I was showing you the 1900 slips, and I couldn't tell if they're slips or they're skirts, really, and that's you don't get much more help out of it from the 1902 catalog because they're just called skirts. Now, where can I hone in on that? But nowhere will they own up to this to being a slip. Ladies' skirts. There we go. Of all these type of heavily decorated and lacy things, they're still just calling them skirts. And yet they're with pajamas, you know, nightgowns. And over here is the camisole cover. Where'd I put that now? We'll get it. It's up here. That I said I'd point to the catalog for. All right, now in this book, the 1916 one, we'll get over to what they had for nightgowns. The heavy, lacy tops with the fabric hanging down for a nightgown. That was very, very popular. And here is skirts in the 1916 era that are actually called petticoats. They will call them a petticoat. So anyway, the confusion between these things. Are they skirts or are they petticoats? Okay, let's see. We're starting at this end. So here's the little camisole, which they also called in our 1902 catalog a corset cover. So that's what my guess that is from my grandma's trunk, a corset cover. Okay, and this, I don't know, maybe this is another little corset cover, or maybe it's the top of one of those lacy pajamas, although this has been hemmed, the tiniest little stitches done by hand to hem it up. We'll never know what it really is. I'll let it down though. Okay, here we're getting to it. This is the type of underwear that we had, and they are from, come on up and get the picture here, from the 1902 Sears catalog. Let's see, they're warning that if you don't specify that you want closed drawers, you will get the open type. There's no crotch in them. It's just two things covering your legs and the rest of it is open, so that you have a shot at, I guess, going to the bathroom without having to take off all of that skirts and all those things you had to wear. But in 1902, if you didn't specify, you were going to get the open one sent to you. That sort of changed and went the other way pretty soon, I would imagine. Although here we have a warmer type of underwear. No date on this, how would a person know? But it's by the Lane Bryant Company. Here we go. Lane Bryant, super combed. There we go. And it's underwear. And it happens to be open again. So in the warmer fabrics even, we have these kind of distasteful to us now underwear, but still it's interesting. The same knit cotton had a camisole top for you to keep the gals warm. That was pretty common at this time. And kind of glad to have a pair. Let's see, maybe I'll start standing here. Here's some of these nightgowns that we saw in the 1916 catalog, but they came sooner than that too. The nightgowns with the crocheted tops, very, very popular. And they're long. Yep, clear down to your feet. There you go. Now we'll do some aprons. We had long skirts, so of course we had long aprons. This one was actually my grandmother's. It's much wider than I've got it on that thing there. Probably that wide across the front. And it's kind of an interesting fabric, but I don't think it was anything that a person had done. The bottom is crocheted lace at the bottom, but this is a border print fabric probably. That was made, and here's a beautiful long apron. It has a button instead of a tie in the back. I need four arms. But there we go, a button and buttonholes in the back. Isn't that pretty? Nice little pocket. Maybe something you wore when a company come or a maid would wear. Here's another one. Beautiful. Lacy bottom. Something people don't appreciate enough today. A long apron because you had a long skirt. This was my first dress from this period, from what I kind of refer to as the Titanic period. Am I back far enough? Kind of? Can I get back far enough? Just showing that it's long. Just understand that part, that it's long. And it kind of is made to look as though it's a jacket, but it's not really. My underbit is just muslin to, you know, hold the dress's shape. Buttons and buttons and buttons and buttons. Buttons on the side too. It was just wonderful. Little jabot for the neckline, a little coming out of the cuffs. I'll tell you something though. Somebody had worn this because for this being 100 years old, it smelled of BO so bad that I literally had to open the sleeves, cut out the stinky part, and put the sleeve back together, just so that you can display it. And that is not a 100-year-old sweat either. That's somebody wore it for something, and I think there's a place in hell for people that wear old clothes and ruin them. But it's not really ruined. I just cut out the rotten part. And this marvelous thing with a underdress that you really can't see and you're not really supposed to, but it provides the skirt to hang out and drag along behind. Just gorgeous. Got this on a garage sale for $1. Totally covered with spots that were as brown as chocolate. Just horrible. I decided between spray and wash and OxiClean, which I'm doing a commercial for them every day. If it's nothing if it can't be cleaned up. So first come the spray and wash, let it soak for that a day, and then the OxiClean for a few more days. And then there were still dark spots. So I decided it's either going to be good or it's garbage. And I put, on a paintbrush, I put bleach and then immediately into water so it didn't ruin it and get rid of the rest of the dark spots. So that got saved to be the beautiful example of a two-piece Titanic era type dress that this old gal got for $1 at a garage sale. Here's one I haven't tried to clean up because it's really just dingy is all. A beautiful sailor dress, and it's long. I would love for it to have been more of the 3/4 length that got popular in the teen period, but I can't make it what it's not. It must have been before that shorter look came in. Hooks and eyes up the front, just a heavy cotton summer dress, sailor style. And here's another cotton dress from this era. Not as lacy and delicate as the lingerie dresses. We're sort of past that look. And so this is just cotton. A little inset with some embroidery on it. Shorter sleeves a little bit cooler. And here again, I would have, when I bought it, I thought for sure that was short, but it's long. And I'm 5'6", so it's not that I'm just so short. It's a long dress. Another one that's long, black, kind of a silkier fabric. Hooks and eyes holding the placket in. It comes to a tie at the bottom. Just a plain skirt. A goofy business about how it has to hook and eye all the way over to the side. That's where it would have opened. Then hooks and eyes and snaps down here. So hard to get into these clothes, but at least she could do it from the front. Anyway, just a dress. A black one. And now some skirts. So here's a very tiny waisted, so maybe it's just a tiny gal, I guess. A two-tone brown dress with a big, I thought that was interesting, that round circle right there. But then on closer inspection, I found out it was patching a hole. So that's pretty clever. There we go. It's old enough it can have a patch on it, and I'll still love it. Here is the only thing that I've got that I would like to pretend was a hobble skirt. See the wonderful beading of glass beads? Oh my goodness. Can't remember if those are pockets. My gosh, those are pockets. That's a wonderful thing too. And it's tight, and it would be kind of hard to walk in something that tight. No kick pleats or anything. But I don't know if it would be an outright hobble skirt, frankly. I would imagine those were tighter. This was a marvelous thing I got in a little antique store because they just couldn't figure out what this was. So this went home with me for about $6. And that is just an example of the goofy shapes and styles they had in the teen period for skirts and things. Isn't that marvelous? Some kind of woven satin buttons for looks, I guess. So here we are, we're back to, since it was on the hanger, I'll show it to you again, the kerchief, which I had this in my hats when I showed you all the hats, that was folded for nurses to wear. A nurse's kerchief, which could be misunderstood to just be a handkerchief, but it's more. And here we have collars. Collars, now this one would have definitely been figured out to go inside a certain dress with the snaps that you would think the other half's on the dress. But nope, they're right here. Okay. Could be on the dress, but somebody took it apart. And just collars. Anything to change the look of something. Lots and lots of collars. And they go all the way through the 20s and 30s too. Now we have some bodices. And I don't know, I guess they're teen period. Whoops, I think I jerked on that a little too hard. Yeah, I'd say this was definitely still teen period, the amount of construction through here. Otherwise, that is getting to be kind of the look you would recognize in the 20s too. A little bodice like that. And this is just an outright blouse. Very lovely, cleaned up beautifully. Didn't even cause me too much pain to iron it. And that's just beautiful. And that kind of teen period into 20s. I would say the same for this too. Very sheer, would have had to have a sleeve a slip under it. Look at the tiny little buttons that coordinate with tiny little button loops that you can barely see, that you could put it together and have it closed if you want. Anyway, pretty little blouse, little buttons. And here's what I would guess is one of a skirt that they could have worn any of these white blouses or colored blouse with. Just a beautiful heavy skirt, cotton. It has a nice placket up the back, but no hooks and eyes. I still feel like it's a skirt. They could put hooks and eyes if they're really worried about the placket gapping open. This one's definitely a skirt, and we're definitely, as with this one, getting shorter now, shorter and wider, which is the look of the teen period. That happened about 1915, 1916. That's the back. with a little extra flow to the back. The front is so worn out, I kind of hate to show it to you. But, you know, it's still what it is. Worn out, it's the only black skirt I have, and I'm not buying anything else. Here's a beautiful skirt or slip, and the needlework or the handicraft work, tatting. I know tatting because I do tatting. That is an awful lot of tatting to just go around the edge of a slip. Goodness, what a lot of effort. And the little divided threads between the layers. I could probably brighten that up with OxiClean, but I'm not sure unless it's really stained. A person needs to. Here's a slip whose little secret, I would have gone under something. You know, I don't think it's a skirt in itself because of the drawstring. That does kind of tell me it had to be a slip. Its little secret is that it has a pocket for your valuables. And it had a little nasty little hanky in it. So isn't that something? A place to put your valuables. And this slip sort of confuses me too, and I know it's a slip because it's a drawstring, because it has, hard for you probably to see, but there's a doubling of fabric right here. So I think it's a modesty panel, so somehow you wouldn't see through a person's legs, and a modesty panel in the back too. I really don't know too much about that. We're going to continue real quick though. Pretty little blouse. Just nothing much to say about it. It sure feels like silk. It's got kind of a interesting print. Now, here we are. This is a exercise suit. Long wool, miserable. I don't believe it would be a swimsuit though. I think it's just for exercising. Sailor collar, wool, heavy, miserable. Isn't that something? And I remember showing you some wooden dumbbells that she might have been throwing around, you know. Here we are with a pair of ladies' knickers for sports events. Cycling, maybe horseback riding, old knickers. And that's, my friend identified those. I had no idea what that would be. Now here we come into just full-length slips that would go under your dress. Or I mean, they're not long anymore, they're short, but it's a slip. Not a half slip, but a whole slip. And a whole slip was called a shift. Forever and ever. It's not anymore, but it was called a shift. And that's what made this joke funny. So here's another sheer, very basic, plain shift. Okay, so I'll come up to you. Here's something funny I found in the way of a postcard online. A World War era postcard. Notice, all workers on munitions will work in shifts. So she's come to help with the war effort, and she's a little perturbed to think she might have to strip down to her slip. Isn't that funny? What a shocking thing. Okay, and then the last thing will be what I show you when I begin to show you things I have made to wear for my costumes. This is the old-fashioned bathing suit. We'll start here with the next video. Thank you.